would you like to come along with me down memory lane and take a look at the Northwest Flower and Garden Show garden that I designed 10 years ago? It was 1,200 square feet. It was the hardest fun I've ever had, and there was a huge snowstorm as we were setting up. I'd like to show you from the beginning process to the end how that worked out. Hi, I'm Suzy Dingle, writer, garden coach, and landscape designer, bringing you information and inspiration to help you enjoy, utilize, and improve your outdoor space. I'll share a few secrets behind the scenes of what it's like to create a garden for the show, but primarily I would like to show you some beautiful plants and design.
The theme for the 2011 Northwest Flower and Garden Show was Once Upon a Time. So I based the design on a scene out of a middle grade adventure novel I'd written, then teamed up with two friends, Victor Higgins, a professional landscaper and fellow designer, and Matt Guerin, a master mason and stone artist. In the months before the show, I used my entire house as a nursery. Victor and I selected boulders and stepping stones at Marinaco's, one of the show sponsors, and we grew a fescue meadow from seed in my garage. Friends offered greenhouse space for the many bare root and full-size ferns and rushes, sedges, and grasses that I'd purchased. Windmill Nursery, another show sponsor, donated space in their greenhouse to encourage the growth on our shrubs and river birch. I commissioned Stanley Rill, a sculptor, to make pillars from reclaimed logs salvaged from the ocean and to create a sculpture or two. My brother, Larry Barlow, a Latin jazz songwriter and performer, supplied musical instruments and whistles, including the long rain sticks that really do sound like rain. Victor and Matt built the structures for the garden, including a stage and a bench. And a faux hot springs. Two of my dear friends harvested kiwi vines. The meadow had filled in, and the quinces, darmera, fawn lilies, and amaranth had bloomed.
I had a lot of help, as you can imagine, to make this garden happen. There was a buddy of mine who did contracting, and then another one who's a mason. I had friends galore helping with setup or creating little things for me that I needed at the time. And had it not been for those friends, I don't think I would have been able to make it through the grueling 5-day setup that it took.
In the dark, with temperatures dropping and a snowstorm on the way, our caravan of 4 trucks arrived on site. We needed every second of the 5 days allotted for setup. Another one of my brothers, Carrie, a master builder, immediately assembled the pre-cut pieces of the stage. And Matt installed the dragonfly mosaic made from discarded granite offcuts. Peter Hawley, professional photographer, continued documenting our progress for a multi-part series about our garden featured in the Tacoma News Tribune. When Marinaco's arrives with your boulders, everything stops and people gather around to watch them set them into the precise location and the proper level. Peter took this funny photo of Victor and me giving conflicting instructions to the crane operator. Victor's hand gesture said, "Wait," Mine said, "Set it down." Peter caught the action from above, capturing our managed chaos. Matt graded the sawdust base, and Marinakos lowered yet more giant stepping boulders into place. The stage pillars and sculpture arrived, and I got my first look at Mindy, the main character in the story. Stan, the sculptor, touched up the paint. Flats of bulbs and primrose arrived from local growers, and they had to wait off to the side until the hardscaping was complete. With one last meeting to go over the design, we were ready for the final push, a speed planting marathon. This garden plays peekaboo, revealing focal points as you move around it, the stage being the dominant feature. Beyond these two boulders, we enter Mindy's private world, a secluded hot spring where she receives a gift. The meadow beyond awaits a pre-harvest musical celebration. The change in level creates a mysterious path that disappears. The backdrop acts as a borrowed view, and the real grasses blur the line between the painted meadow and the real Idaho fescue, dotted with claytonia, violets, yarrow, lupin, and other wild plants. Behind the backdrop is a woodland walk leading to a place for reflection. My interpretation of a medicine wheel, represented by the 4 directions and colors. On the corner, I placed a sassafras tree where passers-by could touch and smell its root beer fragrance. Curves and circles are repeated throughout the garden to keep the eye moving and provide cohesion. An abundance of orange was used, a warm and social color, and it was balanced with touches of cooling blue foliage and flowers. Scattered around the garden are hollowed out stumps, and they're really antique Indonesian containers used for pounding grain. Also, you'll find baskets filled with botanical herbs, bark, and spices. This garden is chock full of many native, edible, and useful plants, living up to the name Chamazan, where gifts and wildings grow. The best photos of the garden were taken by my friend Debbie Leung of Olympia. She has a keen eye and a love of horticulture. Somehow she managed to capture good images despite the very low lighting conditions at the show. I couldn't pass up an opportunity for horticultural humor, and this year, for the treasure hunt for the children, the show chose to hide piggy banks in the garden, but we got to select where they would go. We put ours in the amaranth, also known as pigweed, because pigs love it. Stan's dog sculpture was wedged between fleabane and catnip. And another one of Stan's lighthearted contributions was his moon face with a bird nesting on its head. Before the crowds appeared, my husband, who had worked so hard alongside me, strolled through the garden, and Matt nibbled on the claytonia. In the judges' comments, one of them thought I should have tried to fluff up the fescue, but a visitor to the show had a different idea. She wanted to roll around in it. Gardens are always subjective. When the show closed, we hurriedly packed up and transported the entire garden back to my house. Some plants went into my landscape, and some were gifted to the many friends who contributed so much to the success of the show. I've attended the Northwest Flower and Garden Show since the very beginning, and I'm certainly grateful that they and the sponsors have provided so much joy to the gardening community over the years. And what an honor it was to work with three such highly skilled and good-hearted gentlemen, Victor, Stan, and Matt, who isn't in this photo.
Since the Flower and Garden Show, a lot has happened in the last 10 years for me personally. I'll be telling you more about that. But I did have a bad car accident and melanoma diagnosis, and those two things prevented me from doing the maintenance that I needed to do in my garden, or even just improving it the way I wanted to. So I'm going to be creating videos here in the future of the restoration of my garden. I hope this video inspired you to consider a meadow in your own garden space, or gave you some other inspiration. Until next time, I'll be dreaming of you in the garden. Bye.